actually is this next question. With polls showing that many adults, young and old, have been turned off by the stridency of religious voices in the past 20 or 30 years, it seems a good opportunity for the Episcopal Church to make a case for reason and compassion. How do you see us making an appeal to those disaffected people?
Personally, by engaging people in the community, by going down to New Orleans and helping to rebuild houses. I hear that frequently from folks down there. They'll say, really conservative people come down here and really progressive people, and they get along just fine. When they're focused on somebody else. We have to go out into the community and show people who we are. It's the talking act that is, I think, so off-putting. And it is the talking act that we see caricatured in TV preaching. Or some of the religious expressions in this country. I will tell you what it is. But that's not an Episcopal way of doing things. It's more often, I have a question. What do you think?
And related to that, a rabbinical scholar allegedly once said of the Hebrew Bible that its glory is that it might be true. How do you think doubt enriches faith? Or does it?
If there's no doubt, there's no growth. There's no reason to grow. There's no reason to search, to wrestle. The wonderful story about Jacob wrestling with the angel all night, he gets a blessing in the end. He gets a blessing and a wound. He limps for the rest of his life. He is changed, but he gets a new name in the process. I think that's an image for what doubt is about. It changes us. It means we enter the world in a new way. Hopefully in a deeper way.
What is your own spiritual practice?
The regular part of it is a kind of body prayer called running. It is an almost daily practice of silence and putting my body to work so the noise in here slows down. It's a time of attending to the voice of God, to the wonder of God's creation, and of being present. Do I do it perfectly? No. Do I do it every day? No. But I try.
So, two related questions and related to that. How often do you celebrate the Eucharist? And could you say something about the relationship between the Church's liturgy and the ethical and political mission you described?
How often do I celebrate the Eucharist? I am a strange creature who is not in the same community Sunday by Sunday. There are Sundays when I don't celebrate the Eucharist. There are weeks when I celebrate the Eucharist 8 times. My schedule takes me many different places, and it calls on me to do many different things. That said, I think eating at the table is absolutely foundational to who I am and to who we are. It reminds us of our own hunger and our need to be filled, and that we can't do it ourselves. And it reminds us of the need for the world to be fed in all ways, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and as a community. I think that's one of the great wonders and blessings of this prayer book we still insist on calling new. It recovered that understanding of the early church that Eucharist is the center of our gathered worship life. And morning prayer is okay, but Eucharist is where we are most deeply fed.
We get into a different set of questions, starting off with a fairly specific one. How much money does the Episcopal Church spend litigating the split of the community over property values, and how have we paid for that litigation?
I can't give you an exact figure. You can look it up. You can tease it out if you look on the treasurer's website of the Episcopal Church. Part of the difficulty is that it lumped together are the spending to assist dioceses with property disputes and the legal spending for discipline, Title IV actions, clergy disciplinary issues. Where does it come from? It's come out of the budget of the church and the reserves of the church. How do I justify spending it? It's our fiduciary duty. As leaders and officers in the church, bishops and standing committees and the presiding bishop and the executive council of the Episcopal Church are stewards of the assets of the church, which were given by generations before us for mission and ministry in the name of the Episcopal Church, and not just in this generation, but for generations to come. And it's not our right to give it away to people who want to displace the Episcopal Church. We just don't have that right.
I have a number of questions relating to the American Church and the Anglican Communion, and I want to start off with this more general question, which is, what is the value of quote, vigorous unquote, discussion? Is it to come to mutual consensus, or really to discover new facts and to end up by agreeing to disagree?
Yes, I think both. The level of conflict in the conversation usually governs what kind of outcome there can be. When the conflict level is way up here, the only acceptable outcome is complete agreement. That's the only way to resolve it. If you can lower the level of conflict, people usually discover that they can live with a variety of opinions. And the example about polygamy a while ago is a good one. We can live with a varied understanding because we're not all heated up about it. Vigorous conversation always, if we're faithfully entered into it, always has the ability to convert us, to show us something of the other position, the validity of the other position, and maybe to find a new and more creative result in the conversation. Conversion and conversation come from the same root, to turn with, or to turn about.
I'm going to present a few questions that I think are all connected, so you can take them as you will. One is a question about what are the different issues facing the American Episcopal Church and the English communion. I don't know that the question means the Anglican Communion as opposed to the English Church, Church of England. What do you think the American Episcopal Church can do to encourage unity and harmony in the worldwide Anglican Communion? And what do you see as the future of the Anglican Communion and the role of the Episcopal Church in it?
Rephrase the first one, the Church of England's.
What are some different issues, different issues facing the Church of England and the Episcopal Church?
The main issue, I think, the most telling issue has to do with establishment. The Church of England is still established. Most of the other UK churches have been disestablished, and they're freer, in some sense, to respond to their populations, their congregations, and the populations around them. The Church of England still serves everyone. Their parish system is geographic, and if somebody lives in this parish, that person can go to the vicar and say, I want to be married here, and the vicar has essentially no choice about it. I want to be baptized here, the vicar must make provision for that. Even if the parents or godparents have never been seen in church before and never will be again. That's the duty of the vicar in that place. The Church of England struggles with how to serve the whole nation. And certainly the Archbishop of Canterbury's comments about Sharia law